What happens when the biggest e-commerce giant in the world pulls out of its own backyard? When Amazon decided to leave the United States, it wasn't just a business move. It was a direct challenge to President Trump's tough tariff policies that threatened billions in losses. Could this be the first crack in America's economic armor? The stakes have never been higher, and the fallout is just beginning. If anyone ever believed that Amazon would stay in the United States forever, the morning of May 6, 2025 shattered that belief entirely. No press conference, no emotional farewell, just a leaked internal memo that was confirmed a few hours later. Amazon officially announced it would move its global headquarters out of the United States. And no, this wasn't just about opening another overseas branch for show. This was a full-scale retreat from operations centers, finance departments, logistics hubs, to even top-level executives. Everything was preparing to move. The reason, 3 words: new tariffs. Over the next 36 months, Amazon projected a loss of more than $13 billion due to a new wave of tariff policies under President Trump's administration. Import taxes from China had soared to 145%, while most other products were hit with an additional 10%. For a company that relies on a global supply chain, this was a crushing blow. It was no longer just a matter of cost. It was a matter of survival. And Amazon chose not to sit still, but to save itself. What few people knew at the time was that the company had quietly activated Project Silver Compass, a top-secret plan years in the making, to relocate its entire global command center outside of the US. It wasn't just about high tariffs. It was the final straw after the government scrapped the de minimis rule, a policy that had allowed low-value imports to bypass taxes, which had been the lifeblood of Amazon's logistics system. Once that rule was gone, the system began to crack. Costs soared, deliveries slowed, foreign competitors seized the moment to rise. Amazon realized that if the rules kept changing in only one direction, its home turf was no longer safe. And so, the silver compass began to spin, pointing Amazon toward a new direction, away from America. What would you think if you found out that Amazon once planned to tell customers exactly why prices on their platform were suddenly shooting up? It wasn't because they were getting greedy. No, the real culprit was something everyone had heard of: President Trump's new tariff policy. In early 2025, Amazon began quietly testing a bold new idea, showing, right on each product listing, the exact amount of tariff customers were indirectly paying. And the numbers weren't small: a whopping 145% tax on goods imported from China and 10% on most of everything else. At first glance, the idea sounded fair and transparent, but to the government, it looked more like a ticking time bomb. When the plan leaked in April, everything escalated quickly. President Donald Trump personally picked up the phone and called Jeff Bezos. And Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, didn't mince words. She slammed the move as a hostile political act. Amazon rushed to pull the proposal, but the spark had already caught flame. Pricing was no longer just a business decision. It had become a full-blown power struggle between one of the world's biggest corporations and the highest office in the United States. And that's where everything started to unravel. Behind the scenes, while news headlines were still trying to catch up, Amazon was already drawing up a far more decisive play, one that would redraw the entire global business map. April 2025 marked a turning point. The moment their tax transparency plan leaked, the atmosphere turned from tense to explosive. There weren't any memos or soft-spoken warnings, just a blunt phone call from President Trump straight to Jeff Bezos. It wasn't just a protest, it was a warning shot. The White House didn't want Amazon exposing how these new tariffs were draining money straight from consumers' pockets. Shortly after, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt went public, branding the move as a hostile political act. Her words hit like a bombshell. Amazon had no choice but to kill the plan on the spot. But even as they took it down, the damage was already done. The trust had frayed, and the conflict between the e-commerce giant and the US government was no longer just a disagreement. It had become a full-blown clash of vision, power, and survival. That was when Amazon realized maybe home wasn't home anymore. When Amazon decided to leave the United States, the first question everyone asked was, where will we go? This was not just a simple office move, but a complete rebuild of the entire system, from warehouses and operation centers to employees. Immediately, a list of potential countries was created. There was Singapore, known for its speed and precision, Ireland, favored for its simple procedures, and Canada, with cultural similarities and trade advantages. But the biggest surprise was the United Arab Emirates, which quickly became the top choice. Dubai not only promised tax exemption for up to 10 years, but also offered a dedicated modern logistics zone for Amazon. They also guaranteed data sovereignty, a crucial factor for a major tech company like Amazon. On top of that, the UAE committed to supporting the relocation of up to 40,000 employees and their families, helping to retain a loyal workforce. While politicians in Washington continued to debate how to respond to tariffs, Amazon quietly prepared a strategic withdrawal. This was not just about moving a small division, but a historic decision, leaving the home that had nurtured the world's largest e-commerce empire. Behind closed doors, secret negotiations took place. Amazon wasn't just looking for a new base. It was like holding a silent referendum on the future of the American economy. And the big question remains, can the United States still keep its tech giants, or will it let them go and open the door for international competitors? Right after Amazon announced its withdrawal from the United States, the stock market experienced a mild shock. Their shares immediately dropped by 5%. Investors grew worried, wondering what the future held for the e-commerce giant. However, just a few days later, Amazon's stock surprisingly bounced back, even rising again. Why? Because investors began to see potential in Amazon's new model abroad, a place free from heavy tariffs, with fewer barriers and plenty of incentives. It was an unexpected comeback, proving that in business, big risks often come with big opportunities. In Seattle, the city that once thrived thanks to Amazon, the company's departure left a clear mark. After many years of soaring prices, housing values started dropping quickly, surprising many. The once buzzy cafes and small shops lost customers, and revenues fell sharply. As a result, the city's budget shrank, causing many public projects and infrastructure developments to stall. Seattle, a symbol of tech success, now faces the challenge of maintaining its pace of life and growth. Thousands of Amazon employees suddenly faced difficult crossroads. Some had to migrate abroad under resettlement programs, leaving behind friends and family. Others had to find new jobs and start over in a volatile labor market. The rest waited, carrying uncertainty about their future. Seattle, once known as a tech sanctuary, is now struggling to cope with Amazon's sudden exit. Local officials are racing against time, launching support packages and building new alliances, determined to revive the shaken economy. Once the decision to leave the United States was finalized, Amazon didn't just pack up its offices. It launched a sweeping transformation of its global operations. And at the heart of this transformation stood the Middle East. In Abu Dhabi, Amazon replicated its entire cloud computing infrastructure, ensuring that all data complied strictly with the host nation's data sovereignty regulations. This was a foundational move, one that enabled smooth, secure, and efficient operations in a new environment. But that was only the beginning. In Bahrain and Oman, Amazon built new order fulfillment centers equipped with advanced automation technology and powered by solar energy, a clear statement of its dual commitment to operational efficiency and supply chain sustainability. Yet technology alone wasn't enough. Amazon also prepared a new workforce, thoroughly retrained with region-specific expertise, from Islamic finance principles to data governance and Gulf region legal systems. This was a crucial investment in long-term adaptation and growth. At the same time, Amazon undertook a complete overhaul of its global supply chain. Ports in the United States gradually lost their central role. In their place, a network of new hubs emerged across Asia, the Middle East, and Europe, operated with the support of cutting-edge technologies: blockchain for transparent product traceability, artificial intelligence for precise demand forecasting, and automated robotics for warehousing and logistics. Amazon wasn't simply relocating, it was rebuilding an entirely new ecosystem, one that is stronger, more agile, and built to weather the shocks and shifts of a rapidly changing world. Amazon made its move, and the ripple effect across the American market was immediate and seismic. It wasn't just Amazon anymore. Other corporate giants began reassessing their strategies, seeking to shield themselves from the intensifying tariff policies. Apple, for example, quietly ramped up lobbying efforts to secure tariff exemptions for components imported from China, a clear move to ease cost pressures and maintain a competitive edge. Tesla didn't sit idly either. The company filed for tax incentives for its battery production facility in Indonesia, capitalizing on a more favorable environment to protect its supply chain and manufacturing costs. Even Walmart, the retail behemoth long rooted in America's domestic logistics system, began auditing its global supply network, aiming to diversify and minimize risk. The message from Amazon's story was clear and alarming. If Amazon can lead, anyone can. Headquarters relocation was no longer a distant scenario or a hypothetical in boardrooms. It had become a real option, a stark warning to an American economy bracing for turbulent times. When Amazon announced its departure from the United States, a political firestorm erupted, fiercer and more divided than ever. Congress swiftly demanded an investigation to understand the full scope and consequences of the move. Consumer advocacy groups lashed out at Amazon, accusing it of tax evasion and harming national revenue. Labor unions were furious, denouncing Amazon for abandoning American workers, leaving thousands at risk of unemployment or forced to relocate overseas. But beneath the noise lies a deeper, unanswered question. What does it mean to be an American company in the year 2025? In a globalized economy where capital and data flow across borders and where trade policy lacks the flexibility to adapt, it's no surprise that political forces are increasingly driving production costs more than the market itself. Amazon didn't just leave, it ignited a profound crisis around the identity and direction of America's economic future in the 21st century. The United States' initial tariff strategy aimed at reviving domestic manufacturing backfired in dramatic fashion. Instead of bringing factories and corporations back home, it drove the largest of them, Amazon, to exit the country altogether. Rather than New York or San Francisco, cities like Dubai, Dublin, and Singapore are now rising fast, stepping into leadership roles that the US once held in innovation and technology. Meanwhile, America is left with empty corporate headquarters, shrinking local budgets, and a growing brain drain, as engineers, experts, and entrepreneurs steadily leave. And then the ultimate question echoes like a warning bell. Was Amazon wrong to leave the United States? Does US economic policy need to change before it's too late? And can America still lead the world in an age where capital and technology know no borders?